This is the story of a single photograph. In less than 24 hours, a carefully calculated social media drop designed to project maternal warmth and Hollywood glamour instead became one of the most devastating, self-inflicted public relations disasters of the modern royal era. What looked like a casual, intimate glimpse into a billionaire-style walk-in closet was actually a chilling metaphor for commercial desperation, isolation, and a profound crisis of identity. In this video, we are going to unpack exactly what happened when the Duchess of Sussex posted a seemingly innocent picture with her daughter. We will explore why this specific image triggered a massive wave of moral outrage, what the subtle psychological signals hidden in the frame actually reveal about her current reality, and why this moment represents a point of no return in the Sussex narrative. This is not just about a poorly judged digital strategy. It is about the weaponization of privacy, the dangerous game of internet teasing, and the tragic collapse of an empire built on the illusion of victimhood. To understand the absolute gravity of this misstep, we must first look back at the empire that once was. There was a time not so long ago when Meghan Markle held the absolute undivided attention of the world. Her wedding at Windsor Castle was a historic global event, a golden era that promised to inject fresh life into an ancient, immovable institution. She was handed a platform of unimaginable privilege, immense wealth, and the kind of universal hopeful goodwill that public relations firms cannot buy. She was positioned to be a transformative global figure, standing shoulder to shoulder with the most powerful heads of state, fully protected by the immense machinery of the British monarchy. The world was entirely ready to listen to her. The world was rooting for her success. The contrast between that untouchable royal peak and the current reality is staggering. The departure from royal duties was originally framed to the public as a necessary, urgent escape to secure peace, mental health, and absolute privacy for a growing family. Yet as the years moved forward in California, the narrative aggressively shifted. The transition from senior working royal to Hollywood media mogul has been fraught with severe commercial turbulence. Multi-million-dollar podcast deals publicly dissolved. Production contracts faced intense industry scrutiny. The initial highly lucrative wave of explosive interviews and tell-all documentaries inevitably began to yield diminishing returns. The public appetite for historic grievances was running dry. By the time this new phase of her career began to surface, the background reality was clearly one of immense financial and social pressure. The brand desperately needed a reboot. It needed a lifestyle pivot. It needed to prove ongoing relevance in a deeply oversaturated, highly competitive influencer market. And then came the photograph. It was dropped into the digital ecosystem with clear, undeniable intent. At first glance, to an untrained eye, it is merely a candid portrait. Meghan stands inside a cavernous, immaculately curated walk-in closet, looking confidently into a full-length mirror. But the focus of the public outrage immediately zeroed in on the bottom edge of the frame. There, kneeling at her feet, was her young daughter Lilibet. The child had her back completely to the camera, appearing to help her mother put on her shoes. The visual humiliation was instantaneous, though entirely unintentional on the part of the creator. Body language experts and public relations analysts immediately flagged the terrifying disconnect in the composition of the image. The picture did not project authentic maternal bonding or a quiet family moment. Instead, it visually reduced the child to a background prop, a tiny faceless servant at the feet of a towering ego. The smug, self-satisfied expression captured in the mirror, contrasted with the little girl tending to her footwear on the floor, created a visual hierarchy that viewers found deeply unsettling. It was an image that practically screamed for attention, but entirely for the wrong reasons. Every single detail in that frame was a conscious, deliberate choice. We all know how to crop a photograph on a smartphone, yet the vast, luxurious expanse of the designer closet was intentionally left entirely intact. This was not a careless accident. It was an aggressive display of wealth, a loud signal of status, and an attempt to project a highly curated, flawless aesthetic of success. But the psychological truth it exposed to the world was far darker. It revealed a staggering, almost painful need for external validation. It revealed a woman trying desperately to project an image of having total control over her glamorous life, while simultaneously using her own toddler as a visual accessory to anchor the shot and guarantee social media engagement. This leads to the most devastating moral contradiction of the entire Sussex saga. For years, the global audience has been subjected to relentless, highly paid lectures about the sanctity of privacy. The couple has repeatedly demanded absolute, impenetrable protection for their children. heavily criticizing the media, the public, and even their own family for alleged intrusions. Yet here is the mother weaponizing the very identity of her child for digital traction by deliberately showing just the back of the child's head, by teasing the internet with carefully obscured glimpses while loudly demanding that the world look away. She is playing a remarkably dangerous game. This is not the behavior of someone prioritizing safety. This is dangling a carrot in front of the unpredictable void of the internet, generating breathless headlines about a child's hair color solely to feed a personal need for media attention is a staggering exploitation of the very boundary she claims to defend with her life. But the unraveling of this moment goes even deeper than parental hypocrisy. Observers and cultural critics quickly noted that the outfit, the specific pose, and the overall aesthetic were not even original. The styling was identified as an eerie, near identical replication of Anne Hathaway's iconic transformation scene in the movie The Princess Diaries. Even more chillingly, the color palette mirrored the exact tones worn by Catherine, the Princess of Wales, just a few weeks prior. This is where the story abruptly shifts from a simple, tasteless public relations blunder into a profound psychological crisis. The relentless, almost obsessive echoing of Catherine's sartorial choices, combined with the constant need to recreate fictional royal narratives from early 2000s cinema, points to a devastating lack of authentic self. It suggests a tragic reality where the subject is so profoundly uncomfortable in her own skin and so disconnected from her own core identity that she must endlessly audition for the roles of other people. She is desperately trying to project the effortless grace of the sister-in-law she walked away from, while mimicking the fictional princesses she once watched on screen. While Catherine moves through her immense public duties with a quiet, unbothered confidence, genuinely connecting with young children, establishing firm but graceful boundaries with the press, and looking completely at peace with her historic role, Meghan is visibly caught in a relentless cycle of commercial desperation. The contrast is completely inescapable. The world is watching one woman calmly build a centuries-old legacy, while the other orchestrates heavily filtered photo opportunities in a California closet. The profound tragedy here is that Buckingham Palace does not even need to issue a statement. They do not need to strategize a counterattack. The silence from London is absolute, and it is the most brutal, devastating retaliation possible. They are simply sitting back and letting the Sussex brand completely dismantle itself in real time. But as this photograph continues to circulate, and the overwhelming public backlash intensifies across every platform, a massive internal divide is opening up. The sacred boundary between private family sanctuary and public commercial commodity has been permanently shattered by her own hand. A dangerous line has been crossed and the tension has reached a breaking point. The question now is not just how far this digital manipulation will go, but what happens behind closed doors when the very people you swore to protect become the final, desperate currency you have left to spend. When the boundaries of privacy are breached from the inside, the collapse of trust is absolute. The closet photograph did not just alienate the public, it sent a chilling, silent shockwave through the remaining fragmented relationships in her private orbit. To understand the true devastation of this moment, we have to look past the social media algorithms and examine the massive internal divide this inevitably creates within the marriage itself. For Prince Harry, a man whose entire adult identity and profound personal trauma have been inextricably linked to the relentless, invasive flash of paparazzi cameras, the sight of his own child being deployed as a digital prop must present an excruciating cognitive dissonance. He has spent years launching aggressive high-stakes legal warfare against the British press, explicitly arguing that his children deserve an impenetrable shield from public consumption. Yet the call is coming from inside the house. The threat to their anonymity is no longer a telephoto lens hidden in the bushes. It is a smartphone held by the person standing in front of the mirror. This is where the narrative moves from a public relations analysis into the tragic, complex reality of family estrangement. In the days and weeks following such a misstep, the psychological fallout behind the gates of their Montecito estate must be suffocating. The therapy, the constant crisis management, and the frantic attempts to spin the unspinnable inevitably take a permanent toll. The rift with the British monarchy was formalized years ago on a structural level, but moments like this solidify the absolute permanence of that emotional exile. The palace does not view this photograph with anger, they view it with a profound, quiet pity. Every time the Sussex brand resorts to these hollow internet breaking tactics, it entirely validates the royal family's decision to sever ties. The institution survived for 1,000 years through devastating discipline and stoic restraint. Watching a former senior royal reduce her legacy to an outfit, check while her daughter literally bows at her feet, proves beyond any shadow of a doubt that she never truly understood the assignment of public service. But we must also look closer at the subtle shifts and physical details within that image to understand the private uncertainty driving this public display. The visual signals carry a devastating, deeper meaning. Notice the staggering isolation embedded in the framing. The closet is massive, immaculate, and entirely devoid of life, save for the faceless child forced into the shadows. There are no friends in the frame. There is no authentic community. There is only the reflection of a woman, entirely alone with her possessions. For a couple that once commanded rooms filled with global leaders, A-list Hollywood royalty, and historic figures, this shrinking of their universe is glaring. The shift from discussing global philanthropy on international stages to subtly pushing lifestyle aesthetics from a private dressing room is not simply a pivot in brand strategy. It is a catastrophic downgrade in global standing. It exposes the illusion of power versus the creeping reality of commercial irrelevance. This drastic reduction in status explains why this story resonates so deeply and so uncomfortably with millions of viewers. Why does the world remain utterly paralyzed by this specific downfall? Because it is the ultimate modern morality play. We are watching a live, high-definition broadcast of what happens when you mistake infamy for influence. The public initially tuned into the Sussex story out of genuine empathy. The world was heavily invested in the narrative of a modern, independent woman surviving an archaic, unforgiving institution. But over the last few years, that empathy has been weaponized and aggressively monetized to the point of total audience exhaustion. Viewers are not reacting to this photo out of simple malice. They are reacting out of a deep sense of betrayal. They feel manipulated by a couple who demanded privacy with absolute fury, only to deliberately leak their own private lives the moment the streaming contracts began to dry up. The contrast with the remaining working royals only sharpens the blade of public opinion. Consider how the Prince and Princess of Wales handle the delicate balance of raising children in the global spotlight. When Catherine releases an image of her children, whether it is for a birthday or a holiday, the photograph is completely face forward. The children are smiling, engaged, and visibly treated as individuals, not accessories. The Wales family has mastered the genius art of establishing an unshakable boundary. They grant the public controlled, respectful access during major events, and in return their children are left entirely alone to live normal lives. There is no teasing. There is no digital carrot dangling. By comparison, Meghan's strategy of obscuring faces while simultaneously demanding attention feels deeply cynical. It is a tactical exploitation that ultimately protects no one, leaving the children vulnerable to the most unhinged, obsessive corners of the internet. Looking forward, the trajectory of this narrative feels chillingly inevitable. The illusion of a billion-dollar philanthropic empire has evaporated, leaving behind a stark landscape of forced photo opportunities and carefully orchestrated yet fundamentally empty public appearances. The A-list Hollywood elite, the power players, who once scrambled to secure a dinner invitation, have quietly but decisively distanced themselves. Silence is the ultimate currency of the true elite. And the Sussex brand is simply too loud, too chaotic, and too unpredictable. This isolation will only breed further commercial desperation. We will likely see more of these subtle, highly calculated social media drops. We will see more attempts to recreate the magic of a bygone era, more instances of mimicking the Princess of Wales, and more desperate bids to stay relevant in a cultural conversation that has already moved on. Ultimately, this is a story about the devastating cost of hubris. It is about what happens when you burn every bridge to your past in exchange for a future that never truly materializes. The walk-in closet photograph will not be the final chapter, but it will be remembered as the definitive turning point. It was the exact moment the mask completely slipped, revealing that behind the highly curated armor of victimhood, there was no grand strategy, no higher moral purpose, and no authentic truth. There was only a woman standing alone in front of a mirror, desperately trying to convince the world and herself that she is still the fairest of them all. If you found this breakdown insightful and want to continue exploring the deep, psychological undercurrents of the world's most powerful public figures, take a moment to subscribe and leave your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one, and your perspective helps shape the stories we uncover next. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next deep dive.